Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to spend with me and watch the video. I know everybody's really busy, so I'm very grateful to have you guys around. I want to talk today, guys, about how I failed at bass fishing early on in my career until I learned one thing. And once I figured this out, everything just turned around for me. It's like the switch got flipped on. So I'm going to sort of explain what that was today and help you guys, maybe it'll help you guys out. And if you guys are struggling to sort of reach that next level in fishing, I think this is going to be some good information for you guys. I'm also, guys, a couple quick housekeeping tips. I just want to invite everybody to check out my merch, man. Check it out. I've got Intuitive Angling merchandise up on my shop, on my shopping tab there. You see, in the video when you click on, you'll see that little thing that says shop. We got Intuitive Angling t-shirts, we got sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, everything. And these are super high quality material, guys. These are like super beefy. It's not like those thin t-shirts. I think you guys will like that. And also, guys, please check out, we got a new shipment of my Blaukat throwback jig in at Tackle Warehouse right now. I'd like to invite you guys to check them out there. I'd encourage you guys to get the brown with orange, 3/8 or ½ ounce. That's my favorite color this time of year. So I'll put that link in the description. Really appreciate that. Okay, one of the most frustrating things about loving bass fishing and wanting to become a good bass fisherman is actually getting there. It's actually catching fish. And I remember how frustrating it was to me that, when I was younger, I'd watch all those television shows like Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin and Bill Dance and Jerry McInnes, and you see them out there just ripping them, catching big ones on spinner baits or whatever. And of course, that wasn't the real world, because most of the time those guys fished in private bodies of water. I didn't know that at the time, and I'd go down to the lake, like Grand Lake or whatever, and I'd struggle not knowing anything about fishing. So here's what happened. It's like from about the late 70s up until 1987, I really struggled as far as to get where I wanted to in fishing. Now, I had some success. I made the Bassmaster Classic in 1986, but what happened is it was a struggle that entire time. It's like I was having some success on a moderate level, but not the success I wanted to. And then after I made the Classic in 1986, 1987 and 1988, those 2 years were brutal to me. It's like I had two terrible seasons after making the Classic in 1986. And you got to understand, I'm young and pumped up and wanting to be, successful in the sport. I'm racking my brain to figure out what I need to do. I'm talking to people, I'm spending time on the water, and it's just not happening. So finally, I remember in the winter, after that season was over, in the winter of 1988, we were getting ready for our 89 season. I just sat down and I tried to decipher and I tried to analyze what is it about some of the guys that were at the top of their game back then that allowed them to do that. And I had an opportunity to draw guys like Larry Nixon and Rick Clunn, Roland Martin, and some other people in some tournaments. So I observed what they did, and I got thinking, it's like, okay, here's these guys at the top of their game. What are they doing wrong? And I mean, what are they doing right that I'm not doing right? And I got thinking about it. You know what the common thread was with all of them? Is they fished an area. They didn't like hop around hodgepodge. They put their boat down, they set it down in the area, and they fished that area all day long. They broke down every single piece of cover in it. It didn't matter what it was. It's like, I remember fishing with Larry Nixon up at Truman Lake. We went into this one large cove. Larry took me in there and never left it. We stayed there all day long, and Larry fished everything in there. It's like if there was a tree in 2 foot of water, he fished it. A tree in 20 foot of water, he fished it. If there was a little section of rocky bank, he fished it. It didn't make any difference. He literally fished everything in there. And I started noticing Clunn did the same thing. And I started noticing some other guys I fished with did the same thing. So I realized, it's like, it sort of clicked in my mind. It's like, it's all about being in the right area. So that was my big realization. But the problem with that is I understood that you have to be in the right area. But the real revolution, or the insight that came to me over the next year, is that you have to be able to assess the potential of an area, how good it's going to be, or how much potential or how little potential it has. And that is the revolution that I came about that really changed everything for me. So this is what I did. This is how I sort of put that into practice. Starting in the 1989 season, I started practicing different, and I'd get out there, and it's like when I would roll up on an area, I just didn't roll up on an area because it looked good, or it's like the area that I rolled into. It's like I assessed it before I got in there, and I told myself, it's like, what is the potential of this area to carry you through the whole tournament? Is there enough fish in this particular area, whether it be a creek arm or a big bay or big grass flat or whatever it may be? Is there enough potential in this area for you to do good? And in order to do that, I finally figured out that the potential that the area has, in order for an area to be really good that holds a lot of fish, is you have to have a diversity of cover. And it can be the same type of cover, but you have to have a lot of cover. You have to have some type of proximity to deeper water. Doesn't have to be like right there, but it needs to be fairly close. It needs to be an area that is not getting a tremendous amount of fishing pressure. So it has to be a little bit inobvious to some extent. And finally, it has to be positioned in the right place on the lake based upon the season that you're fishing. Now, certain areas of the lake are better at certain times of the year, because when you calculate the factor of water visibility and water temperature there's certain parts of the lake that are going to be better. For example, in cold weather months, the lower end of the lake's usually better because it's cleaner, and in warm weather areas or in warmer months, a lot of times the tributaries and extremities are a little bit better because they have more off-colored water. So I started studying fishing like that from that standpoint. And every tournament that I went to, I utilized the same approach. It's like I never just randomly pulled up on some place that looked good. But before I fished an area, it had to meet my criteria that, yes, this area has potential. Now, whether the fish are here or not, I don't know. I've got to fish through it to find out. But, that same list of criteria is what I went by every single tournament. And by using that system, everything turned around. I wound up winning my first Bassmaster tournament that year in 1989. I qualified for the Classic that year, qualified for the Classic next year, and my career just took a step to the next level by being able to assess an area and read potential. Now, here's one thing that is very important for you guys to do, is like, don't just randomly pull up on places that look like you can catch one. That's called junk fishing. Now, junk fishing can be productive. I mean, you can do well junk fishing. When I'm talking about junk fishing, I'm talking about, there may be one boat dock over there across the creek, and you hit that one dock. And then you go down the lake another 500 yards, and there's one laydown tree in the water. You hit that laydown tree. It's just a hodgepodge of stuff. But the problem with junk fishing is you can't be consistent with it, because they're either there or they're not. If you learn how to assess the potential of an area, that's the type of knowledge that you have that puts you around big populations of fish, big schools of fish, places where fish move in and out of. They're like highways, staging areas, highways. There's always fish in these areas. And once you assess that, and once you figure out and you determine that the area that you're fishing has a lot of potential, then you can break that area down with technique and lures and different lure profiles and different colors and casting angles. And you can refine that once you figure out that this is where the fish live at. So main thing, guys, the thing that just completely turned it around for me is learn how to assess the potential of an area. You want to make sure that you don't underestimate an area and you don't overestimate an area. That is really important too. Now, here's how you do that. Here's how you learn to correctly assess the potential of an area. It's like if you're fishing like one particular spot, like a straight stretch of bank that doesn't have much cover on it, and you catch a fish or two, something like that, and you make a couple passes through it and you don't catch any more, it's probably time to leave. The potential of that area doesn't exist there because you don't have the diversity of cover. And the opposite end of that is like, say, if I pull up on a different bank that's got 30 boat docks on it, or 50 laydown trees, or whatever, or some lily pads, the potential is much higher there, and you can slow down and figure stuff out, and you can really, relax and be at peace, knowing that if you're getting a few bites, there's probably a lot of fish there, and they're going to stay there because they have everything they need. Fish need a couple different things. They need some type of cover, ambush point. They need food. They need, accessibility to deeper water. All fish are different, but that's the basic criteria a lot of them have. So anyway, guys, that's what it is. Spend some time assessing areas, really spend a lot of time trying to determine where you want to fish. A couple different things can help out with this is like get on Google Earth. Google Earth is a great resource to, find different water clarities and lakes, the cover that's on the banks, the rock transitions, Navionics web apps, some stuff that you can get on to really allow you to mentally pre-fish that little bit, and then have a systematic approach. It's like, before you go fishing, look at the lake, look at a map of the lake and say, okay, I've got 3 areas that I want to try. That these 3 areas have really good potential based upon what I'm looking at, and go in those areas and just spend your day in there. Try to figure out how to catch those fish because they're in there because that area does have potential to hold a lot of fish. So anyway, hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.